समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
This has been a nightmarish week for passengers and people across India, stranded at airports, unable to get to funerals, weddings, exams because of the breakdown in the operations of Indigo. But this was no mere coincidence. Indigo quite simply failed to meet global standards on safety. And not just did it compromise on safety, even though it had 2 years to fix the problem, in its responses since, it has shown a level of, what should one call it? Smugness, hubris, arrogance, call it what you will. The one thing that has emerged is the odd exceptionalism that was created for this one private company, with the aviation regulator having to roll back safety standards that had been implemented by every other airline in India but Indigo. Will heads roll? Why haven't heads rolled yet? The aviation minister has spoken in parliament, Indigo has responded, but there seems to be no visible action against any relevant officials, either in the company or in the government. In a moment from now, we'll be talking to Suhel Seth, brand guru, image consultant, communication specialist, and also somebody who has served on the global advisory board of British Airways for 6 years. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. The images you see on your screen have been a staple of our headlines for the past several days. Stranded, emotional, desperately angry passengers unable to get onto a plane, either to meet their loved ones, take an exam. There was even a woman who was trying to get a coffin of her husband back and couldn't. A couple who could not attend their own wedding ceremony, angry foreign tourists. It has been a dismal image for Indian aviation. And guess why it happened? Because Indigo quite simply failed to hire enough extra pilots to adhere to global standards on pilot rest that every other company in India was able to implement. Was Indigo only eyeing a bigger profit? Is that all that the company cares about? Profit is not a bad word in our dictionary, but certainly never at the cost of flight safety. That too in a year when our country has been scarred by an airline crash. We all saw what happened in June. Are we simply waiting for another disaster to take place? Why did the government roll back established safety norms that Indigo had 2 years to implement? Let me introduce our newsmaker today. Suhel Seth is with us. He is the managing partner at Cancellations, and as I said, he has also served on the advisory board for British Airways for 6 years. He is an expert at communications, at branding, at image management. And if there's one brand that is literally has come crashing down, it is that of Indigo. So, thank you so much. It's very important to understand that this is not some subject for aviation geeks. At its most basic level, it's about flight safety. It's also about impunity, and it's also about exceptionalism created for one company. Your series of comments on X very strongly spoke about where the accountability should rest. I want you to start with how you see the situation now, especially since we do have Indigo's response to the aviation regulator claiming that they can't pinpoint a single trigger for why what happened happened.
So here's the thing. As you rightly said, the notice was served on all airlines 2 years ago. Of all the airlines, Indigo is the only profit making airline. All the other airlines are incurring losses. If all the other airlines could implement the FTL rules to hire an additional 65 pilots only for Indigo was no mammoth task. It was
And
easy.
it was just 65. It was just 65
They needed
pilots.
65 pilots to fill what they call the norms of the re-rostering, which they didn't do. Number two, everyone, including the parliamentary committee, warned of this outage, that this would happen. It was ignored. The DGCA, to my mind, has been caught sleeping literally at the wheel because they did not bother to check whether Indigo had even got ahead with hiring of pilots, with re-rostering. So much so that when Indigo asked for a 6% increase for winter schedule flight increases, those were also granted. So, to my mind, it has been a systemic failure which stems out of arrogance. And I will say it blatantly, Barkha, on your show, there is nothing but collusion between the DGCA and this particular airline because I don't understand why else it could have happened. Look, let's not throw the baby with the bathwater. Indigo has been running a fine airline, but all know that many private operators in this country, including people from with Jet Airways and blah blah blah, they were all in cahoots. I mean, there was a time when civil aviation ministers were in bed with certain private operators. We all know that. I mean, there's no point revisiting that. One thing I will give to Ram Mohan Naidu's credit is that he doesn't have that historical baggage or that lineage of collusion. So, I can understand when Ram Mohan Naidu says that strict action will be taken, it will be taken. But look at what has happened to the passengers. And then, Barkha, as you rightly alluded, look at the response. You run a full page ad saying, we're sorry. I mean, for God's sake, look at what Air India did. And I'm saying this only to bring about a contrast. When the government said that we are now capping all the fares, Air India could have said, fine, we'll cap the fares hereafter. They have issued a statement saying all fares that you, Barkha, or I incurred, even during the transition period, which were not in the cap, that extra money that Air India took will be refunded. They didn't need to do it. When the Air India crash happened, N. Chandrasekharan, the chairman of Tata Sons, was in Ahmedabad at 10:20 in the morning. He didn't need to be. The CEO could have gone. Here, the CEO was missing. The CEO then comes and issues an apology from the Operations Control Center saying, our people are working. What have you done? You have brought Indigo to its knees. You have brought civil aviation to its knees in India. You have damaged brand India incalculably. You have gone totally AWOL in terms of the board and the management. We didn't see anyone. Your frontline staff was being abused and heckled, poor chaps. Some of the passengers, to my mind, behaved abominably and should be put on a no-flying list for even thinking and then doing the attacks that they committed on frontline staff. You tell me, Barkha, a catastrophe of this kind can happen, but surely an airline which is in this business for so long knows that you need to prevent a crisis from engulfing your brand. But no one has done anything. And what are we seeing? We are seeing a beautiful dialogue between the DGCA and Indigo. Where is a Barkha Dutt who's a passenger? Where is person X or person Y? Have you reached out to them? To this day, no Indigo passenger who was affected has been sent an email. They'll be the first to send you an email about new routes. Has an apology come your way? Have they said, Barkha, you book from Delhi to Goa or Delhi to Bombay? If your onward flight from Bombay to, let's say, Doha or Dubai was on another carrier, we will make sure you get that refund. People have lost hotels. Now, let me give you a New York, an American example. Southwest Airlines, because of severe weather, went into a tizzy in 2023, I think. Yeah, 2023. The Biden administration imposed a fine of $140 million. I only said 4 crores in my tweet. Of that $140 million, they paid $37 million to the government, and 103, the government gave them a waiver to refund to clients, to customers, in the form of vouchers, upgrades, refunds, all of that. Has anything of that sort happened? The profit that Indigo made was about 8,000 crores. So the point is, it is not about hubris alone. It is our insensitivity to, managing passenger and consumer expectations. And let me tell you, this has happened because today, and the media, other than you and some others, everyone talks about a duopoly. It is a pure monopoly, 65% market share. In any other country, the CCI would have been up in arms, antitrust would have stepped in. You got 65% market share. Well, your graphics say 63. 63% market share, which by any stretch is monopolistic. All the routes. So my point is, knowing Narendra Modi as one does, there will be repercussions, there will be a reprisal, and there will be, someone's knuckles will be rapped. But in the process, by extending, as you use the word exceptionalism, you have also created a level of endangerment to my mind. Because if these rules are relaxed, it's also impinging on passenger safety. So who's going to be responsible, God forbid, if something were to happen? The airline will throw its hands up saying, we got the extension.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll come to the flight safety dimension of it in a moment, Suhel. But you also spoke about the sort of collusion between the regulator, the DGCA, and Indigo. You've spoken about the arrogance in their responses, and you've spoken about the monopoly, the 65% domination of market share, because of which the government basically rolled back the norms. Do you believe that was a mistake? Do you believe that despite the kind of images we're seeing on our screen right now, the government should have stood firm and basically grounded Indigo temporarily if needed?
They couldn't have done it, Barkha. Let me tell you, the government was it was between a rock and a hard place. To be fair, no government in the world will allow for air transportation to be crippled. You and I are only talking about passengers. There's cargo movement, there's movement of goods and services, there's movement of perishable products. No government will take a situation where the average citizen suffers. But there is stuff to be done post this and lessons to be taught to people who think they can get away with impunity by disregarding government regulations. My point is, where was the DGCA? Let's say it is not financial collusion, but where was the DGCA all these months? Even in August 2025, when the parliamentary committee flagged this as an issue, no action was taken. This therefore leads me to believe that there is either collusion or arrogance, or we don't give a damn, do what you want. Because we know that we are in a dominant position, we are too big to fail. But remember, even in the United States, which you know so well, Lehman Brothers was allowed to collapse. But there are lessons to be learned from here. From this incident.
What is your understanding? Why would a company that has thousands of crores in profit hesitate to hire 6,500 more pilots? They could have taken expat pilots on contract. It's a standard sort of procedure for many airlines to do. They cannot use the excuse of, oh, it was tough to, get people to break their contracts. There's a no poaching policy. Every other airline has done it. What do you think stopped Indigo from doing it?
It flummoxed me. And I'll tell you why. Because I was involved in a manner with the aviation industry. If you ask people across the board, they have only nice things to say about Peter Elbers, that he's a very well-respected, well-regarded professional. I don't know him, I've never met him, but that's what people say. Rahul Bhatia comes from a family which has been involved in the travel business. He is also high on excellence. He's, got a board which is exceptional. If you look at the board which is on your screen, I don't know what's happened. Knowing very little that I do of Rahul Bhatia, I'm amazed that this has happened. Now, let's give them all the benefit of the doubt. Let's imagine no one imagined this could have happened. I'm saying even then, the response of Indigo was found wanting. And I'll give you an example. My child and my mother-in-law were to travel from Goa to Bombay on the 5th of December at 9 a.m. by the 9 a.m. flight. They were told it'll go at 11, 2, 4, 6, then cancel. My point is, you knew very well that you would not be able to fly that day. You should have told passengers. People could not. Okay, for my child and my mother-in-law, they managed to get onto a train or whatever they did. But the point, Barkha, is there were people going who were totally stranded. And we were going from, my child and my mother-in-law were going from my house. But there are people who incurred hotel expenditure, people who went back and forth from airports, conveyance charges, throughput airfares. Who's going to refund that? Who's going to pay for that? And that's my worry, that the response of Indigo is a cozy dialogue between Indigo and DGCA. And I'm amazed because you have people like Vikram Mehta, you
Yeah.
have Mr. Damodharan, you have Amitabh Kant, Pallavi Shroff. These are people of high integrity, competence, excellence. You have, Air Chief Marshal Dhanwa there. These are not, ordinary people. These are people of eminence. These are people who've run great businesses or, run great policy networks. I'm amazed as to what happened. And I'm sure the board is seized of the matter. But the point is, the response has been very, very tepid and very insensitive. If I were to say one thing, Indigo, which was so consumer centric at one time, has shown itself as completely empty of empathy. And that is the
Mm.
worry.
I think that's very well said. Complete lack of empathy and probably an assumption that it is too big to fail.
Yeah, although I have to say that, I mean, you know him better, but knowing the Prime Minister, he's liable to pull the plug. I mean, he won't be bullied. But today, I mean, at that time, between the 3rd of December and the continuing tragedy that is unfolding, there was no other way, Barkha. What could they have done? Okay, imagine you are getting off with 1,700 flights are being cancelled. What would you do? You would have people up in arms. There would be protestations. It would have been chaotic. But I know that there will be repercussions and there'll be serious repercussions. And my advice to Indigo, free of cost, is that, someone needs to now start engaging with the passengers. They trusted your brand. They bought your tickets. They believed in your brand. Your brand did well for them.
Yeah.
And then you let them down this way. I mean, so I've not been able to understand, Barkha, that these are not fly by night operators. These are
Mm.
people who know the business. These are people with high integrity. These are people of excellence. Why has this happened? It's just beyond me. And I'm not exaggerating. It's truly
I mean,
beyond me.
the only cause or reason or theory that fits is that Indigo didn't want to spend more money in hiring more pilots. That's the
Yeah,
only.
probably. Or they believe that, no, we could get away.
Mm.
Sometimes what happens is you often believe that, you can get away. And my view here, Barkha, is that this was too little too late. The CEO was not there. No one was there. And you had a situation where no one was there. And that's why it erupted in the way it did. You had no one in charge. The CEO was not there in the country. The COO was not in the country. So you
Yeah,
had a situation
shocking.
where everyone was in trouble.
Absolutely shocking. And can I turn your attention to something you would have already seen? It is now viral across social media, an open letter by Indigo former or current staffers, we don't know, talking about how the real rot started when titles became more important than talent, how this was, years in the making. This was not some overnight mismanagement, etc. A very outspoken letter. Juxtapose this with Indigo's very tepid, as you called it, response to the regulator today, saying that we can't pinpoint any reason why this happened. We need more time. And the DGCA, this inquiry, it almost seems to be like the regulator is investigating itself. What is the credibility of the DGCA right now investigating Indigo when the DGCA itself has a lot to answer for?
Brilliant. In fact, I've said this earlier. The worst thing that can happen is if the DGC is charged with the investigation because they are culpable, they are an involved, they are an interested party. They are the last people you should entrust any investigation with. A. B. As you rightly said, there is one parallel communication between the DGCA and the airline. Where is the passenger? Where are
Yeah.
your colleagues? Has Peter Elbers sent out a note to his colleagues that, look, whatever happened, we are sorry. Here is a financial package. Here's a bonus for you spending nights, facing insults, facing violence, facing all of that. Nothing. You let your frontline staff. You left them to the wolves. I mean, wolves
Yeah.
in a manner of speaking. I'm not saying passengers are wolves, but they were
Yeah.
there. There was no one else to support them. And
Yeah.
hats off to CISF, hats off to airport operators, hats off to the Indigo staff who bore the brunt. But my point is, when you have such great people, such eminent people on your board, why would you allow a situation to emerge this way? I can understand, Barkha, the airline roster collapsed on day one. By day two, there should be consumer engagement. There should be passenger responses. You would set up about 20 or 100 more helplines. You would have people. The issue here, Barkha, is not that the flights got cancelled. The issue is the lying. The issue is the false hope that you gave to passengers. Yes, sir, it'll go. It'll go. You know why? Because the stupid rule in India that if you don't cancel the flight but keep delaying it, you don't have to issue a refund. We should now follow the European Charter of Passenger Rights, and then you see how airlines behave.
Absolutely.
But we don't follow that.
But can I ask you? You said that at the time when this chaos was playing out across airports, the government simply did not have the option to ground the airline temporarily because 63%, 65% of the market, could not have been jeopardized. Unfortunately, that Indigo may be thinking that will still be the case. The norms have been rolled back, norms that were implemented by all other airlines, norms that directly impact safety. Why do these standards exist? They exist because the people flying your plane should be well rested. It's a direct safety issue. So one is, this is playing around with flight safety. Two is, if the government did not ground them then, why are you so confident that there will now be action and repercussions?
This is an excellent question. So I think two things will happen. Number one, they might force the airline to split, because they will then, you saw that with AT&T, when AT&T was forced to split. We have examples where governments have stepped in, and in order to shed monopolies and monopolistic tendencies, have told companies that, look, you have to split two ways. Number two, and this is very, very critical, Barkha, is that they will now start stemming the number of flights that they award to Indigo, with the result that the other airlines will have to step up. Now, just as a matter of record, I mean, you know this better than I do, that in the last 3-4 days, and it's in the public domain, that's why I'm quoting it, Air India bumped up their flights to 1,200 to 1,300 flights a day in order to alleviate passengers of all the current issues. So that's what's going to happen. And my worry is that there were people, and I will not name them, but you know who they are. From the time Jet Airways began, the dominant operator was lobbying always in such a manner to prevent other people from coming in. Mr. Tata spoke about how the Singapore Tata Airline deal was stymied by Naresh Goyal and his antics. I mean, and you saw that all along. Ask Parvez Damania what happened to Damania Airways. Check out what happened to East West. The best person to talk to is how predatory pressure and lobbying took control. Ask Captain Gopinath what happened with Deccan. I mean, there are instances where civil aviation ministers were in bed with private operators and everyone knew it, but no one talked about it. Today, those chickens, unfortunately, are coming home to roost.
Absolutely. And therefore, you believe that there are an available set of options. History shows that this has been done with monopolistic airlines that don't show accountability to the market, to the consumer. One option is a split, like happened with AT&T. Another is the number of routes that are awarded. Basically, you curtail the domination by Indigo of the market, this monopolistic hold over the market.
Yeah, because what we normally see in the aviation sector are two kinds of flight passages. One is your domestic sector, which is under the government of India. But the second is all your foreign, international flights, which also have a quid pro quo or are contextualized with sovereign rights, or bilaterals. So imagine if the government says, okay, this is how you all have screwed up. We will curtail all foreign Indigo flights up until you can restore a certain level of confidence in us that you can follow the new FTL norms. Once that goes out, see, Barkha, you know this better, yeah? When you pinch someone's money, that's when they learn the most. They don't care about an apology and this is true of everyone.
Yeah. Let me ask you in the end, I want to take you back to what you said on X and on social media. Who steps up and takes responsibility? Heads do need to roll. The people of this country need to see that heads are rolling. And you have pinpointed accountability for the airline, for the regulator, maybe for the Aviation Ministry as well. A lot of people are saying, why, if the parliamentary panel warned of this, why didn't the government step in? So the question to you is, whose heads should roll according to you, and what should happen now?
To my mind, the DGCA heads should roll, but I've been told by multiple people, I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't know the gentleman, that the new head of DGCA is squeaky clean and an honest, competent person. But obviously, there were people under him who are in charge of this FTL and all of that. Those guys should be sacked immediately. And they all come with lineage and legacies that you and I can't, that are unmentionable. But it's a fact. Number two, there should be fiscal penalty on the airline. And by that, I'm not being harsh on the airline. I'm saying that fiscal penalty, like in the case of Southwest Airlines, should be routed back to the passengers who suffered enormous pain and enormous trouble.
But what figures are we talking? Because this is a highly profitable company. It can afford
I'm talking about 4,000 crores. Please understand, Southwest was charged and they cancelled those flights, 17,000 flights over a longer period. They were made to pay $140 million. I'm not even talking about that. So there needs to be some fiscal penalty. Number three, there needs to be adherence to rules, and you need an investigation which is non-DGCA driven. That investigation cannot be handled by the DGCA. Now, would you want a judge? Certainly not, because they are not competent. The problem, Barkha, is, and this is a legacy issue, to just blame Modi or Ram Mohan Naidu is unfair. Legacy issue is these posts have not had brilliant aviation experts manning them. Why can't we get retired senior pilots or senior aviation experts to man these posts?
Yeah.
No one cares.
Absolutely. What would you hope will happen in the next few days?
I think, knowing, the board members as one does, Rahul Bhatia, I hope they will step up and do what I call the recovery of consumer confidence, which they need to do in order for this brand to survive, not survive, in order for this brand to come back to, its earlier form.
Yeah.
Number two, there has to be probity, demonstrable punishment, and transparency with the steps that the DGCA must take. Number three, the minister must read out the Riot Act to Indigo saying that we have given you extensions till the 10th of February, but we want a monitoring done every day. Number four, the Peter Elbers of the world must realize that this is India. It is not the Netherlands. It is a different country. If people talk to us, if people engage with us, we are far more forgiving than you can imagine. I'll give you one simple example, Barkha.
Yeah.
There were children, there were senior citizens waiting at airports. How much money would it have cost any airline to give them one bottle of water and one packet of food, one food packet? How much would it have cost? But you didn't give a toss. You thought you could get away, and you didn't. And you never can. I mean, a simple gesture. People would have been calmer, would have been assuaged. If a board member was there, if an Amitabh was there, if, Vikram Mehta was there, people would have realized that people are seized of the matter. The feeling most passengers got, and many have written to me, was we were left as if we were street urchins, or we were just left cast aside. The phrase often that was told to me was, we were cast aside. Ki parwai nahi hai. Jo karna hai karo. The jo karna hai karo actually damaged Indigo more than anything else.
Well, as you said, it's arrogance, it's hubris, it's this assumption that, hame to koi kuch kar hi nahi sakta. It is that sort of impunity that actually the government must read the Riot Act on. It goes right to flight safety, it goes to corporate management, and it also goes to basically what the right of a citizen is, and that's what this is really about. Also, of course, very serious questions about monopoly. I think none of us have ever stopped to think about these staggering numbers. One company having this much hold over the market leads to a kind of automatic arrogance
and connectivity. Barkha, it's connectivity. I can understand if in the tea business I have 60% dominant market share, but here I'm connecting people, I'm connecting lives, I'm connecting cargo, I'm connecting goods. So the hold is much greater than you and I can imagine.
And it's important to understand that this has been, I actually think it's a scam. It's a scam that an airline has 2 years to fix this and can't, because it's not a mistake. It's not a last minute kuch galti ho gayi. You've had a period of 2 years to do this. And as you said, all they needed was 65 pilots to actually contain this. That's it. And this is a country
Yeah.
with thousands of crores in profit. It is shocking.
And when they're making money,
That's what
all
I'm
the
saying,
other
it's shocking.
airlines followed the norms,
Who are not making profit.
who are not
Who are
making
not
money.
Absolutely shocking. Suhel, thank you for being so plain spoken and calling a spade a spade. We appreciate that enormously here at the Mojo Story. Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and we'll continue to track what happens on this big headline story. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.